Let's start in Orangeburg, New York. Joseph, welcome to the Line of Fire.
Hello, Dr. Brown. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Sure thing.
First of all, I just want to say, I myself, I'm not a Christian. I'm a Hasidic Rabbi. But I see, I want to thank you for, even though we might have theological differences, standing together with views on morality and ethics and things, I want to say, I appreciate and I feel a certain fellowship to the work that you all are doing, even though we might have our differences. And I remember a few weeks ago you said something that the ultra Orthodox community, they have a hatred for what you're doing. I don't talk for everybody, and even if we might disagree, I don't see any hatred. We have, even in our own community, I know individuals who might share some of your ideas who have been embraced, and even some rabbis who have said that even though we disagree, it might not be, certain things that these particular people, I'm not talking in general, but in certain cases might not even go into the realm of heresy or anything. So it's not, but certainly there's no hatred, there's no disagreement. There might be, but we can still have fellowship and love.
Rabbi Joseph, let me just jump in for 1 second. First, it's very kind of you to say that, and I have the utmost respect for you calling in. Do you mind me asking what Hasidic sect you're part of, or would you rather not say on the air?
I'm more or less independent. My family is of Hungarian background.
So that could be Satmar, but
more or less. I'm not particularly, but and again, there's disagreement certainly, but I know one particular case in the nearby community by us where there was a question of someone, and he was working in a kosher restaurant, and some of the rabbis said, he's not allowed to supervise the kosher because of certain beliefs, and a rabbi, a very, very strict rabbi who was from the same Hungarian type of background, also would consider himself more independent, but he said, well, this person keeps the laws, he keeps the Sabbath, keeps everything, and for him it wasn't really a theological issue, but maybe other approaches or whatever it was along similar lines, but not exactly. This other rabbi who I respect very much, he said no, he should be allowed to he should be considered part of the community because he's keeping the law and he believes in one God and so forth. Anyway, that's not really what I meant to call about.
Got it. Okay, yeah, I hope you don't mind me asking this, only because I have good friends who are ultra-Orthodox, some Hasidic, some non-Hasidic, but they're ultra-Orthodox. We've interacted for years, rabbis. I highly respect them, men of integrity. They've had mutual respect for me, but of course they would consider my views heretical. The big issue that they would normally have is that I want other Jewish people to believe in Jesus, Yeshua, as the Messiah. So I actively share my faith and have materials on this. So that's what, even though I'm considered by them a tinok shenishbeh, so I was like a child born in captivity and didn't really understand traditional Judaism, so I'm not as responsible. They'd still look at me not just as a choteh, as a sinner, but a machti, and causing others to sin. Because of that, I've often gotten that hostility, which I have no problem with. In other words, in their view, I'm trying to take people away from Torah and take people away from the God of Israel. That's how they see it. But listen, we've got a break. Stay right there, please, sir. And I know you wanted to comment on something else, but thank you for the call and for your kind words. And we are ultimately brothers in the midst of our differences. Welcome back to Thoroughly Jewish Thursday. Michael Brown, delighted to be with you. Let me go back to the phones. Rabbi Joseph, thanks for holding through the break. There was something else you wanted to comment on, so please go ahead.
I did want to clarify, I still do consider, whatever your beliefs are to be heretical, but it still doesn't remove any love. And I see the fellowship. Yes. I look at you, despite you being Jewish, I have fellowship with Gentile Christian pastors who, I love very much, who I'm friendly with. So it's not, there's still, or even, Muslim imams or whatever, other faiths, all kinds of, and atheists, all kinds of people who I can have fellowship with. But so we can disagree, but still have respect and love for each other. Anyway, I was, you brought up about the subject of the younger generation in the church changing their views on Israel, and you mentioned the Satmar Hasidic group and many other groups, and non-Hasidic groups and many others. Their view on Israel is rather, radically different from that you all hold. And I understand, to me, it makes even more sense for a Christian to be pro-Israel than for a Jew to be pro-Israel, because, in Christianity, they look at things as sola scriptura, and their approach to Scripture. I mean, you were saying that it's, in a macro view and a micro view, that the older generation who were more pro-Israel had more of a macro approach to Scripture, seeing the big picture of Scripture and prophecy, and whereas the younger people see it as, they're looking at the injustices and so forth. I mean, there are injustices done to Jews, to religious Jews particularly, in the Holy Land, and to Christians as well, and all different people going on now in the Holy Land. I mean, we still have a religious devotion to the Holy Land, but
of course it's different.
The fulfillment of prophecy in general, in the end of Malachi, it says, behold, I'll send you Elijah the prophet before the great and awesome day of the Lord. So, meaning, until that has happened, all of these things are on hold. How just because a bunch of people who were mostly atheists, but they happen to have Jewish ancestry. I mean, Judaism is a religion. It's not a race. It's not. Ruth was accepted even as a Moabite. And her people are our people, and she's totally part of our people. But those who don't believe, people who are atheists, people who are totally in opposition to our faith and don't believe in the Bible, just because they happen to have Jewish blood. It really breaks Judaism down to something racist, which scripturally is, I don't see very sound. That I don't see the fulfillment of prophecy in this current. If anything, if I would take a Christian term, it would be almost like an antichrist.
Right. So I just want to take a minute just to explain to listeners that may not have followed some of this. If you go back to the Zionist movement and to the decades leading up to the birthing of the modern state of Israel, you would find many of the most Orthodox rabbis around the world militantly opposing this idea of a Zionistic movement and a regathering of Israel, especially when most of the people involved were secular and not religious. And one of the leading voices in that was Rabbi Yoel Teitelbaum, who was the leader of the Satmar Hasidim, so from Hungary, and then rescued out of the Holocaust, and then resettled in basically Williamsburg, Brooklyn, for the most part. And they and other rabbis strongly oppose the modern state of Israel, as do some groups today, the small group Nitzarei Karta, which is Aramaic for keepers of the city. They've opposed it for several reasons. One was that they said it's the Messiah who will regather the Jewish people, and for human beings to do it would be getting in the way of the work of the Messiah. The other was that the goal was that Israel would not just be a physical place where Jewish people would be safe, but a place where the Torah would be observed. So their concern was that if you had an Israel that was a secular state or godless state, that would hurt the Jewish people being raised there and bring reproach to Judaism. And then that if you had an Israeli state before the Messianic era, that would increase anti-Semitism worldwide, and that therefore it would be divisive and negative. So those were the various reasons that Orthodox Jews had to say that they opposed the modern state of Israel, and many still do to this day. Would you say that's a fair representation of the major issues?
I think you pretty much hit it on the head. I mean, we have biblical sources for this. We cite Song of Solomon and Isaiah and Jeremiah and many others, as support for this, as well as, you mentioned, in brief, that would increase anti-Semitism worldwide. Is the fact of the matter is Israel is the most dangerous place for Jews since 1948. More Jews have been killed in Israel than anywhere else. So it even almost smacks of anti-Semitism to support a Zionist movement. I know that a lot of folks mean well, because and I don't think it's only because of they want to see biblical prophecy come true. I know that most Christians who support Israel do so because they love Israel and they love the Jewish people and they love God and they love the Bible And I appreciate that, and I value that. I'm not trying to devalue that, but I'm also
No.
saying that,
I appreciate it, and you're giving
I'm
another
just also
perspective.
saying that other when even many Christians, I don't see them as deviating from Scripture because they're not accepting an apocalyptic view. It almost this very literalist approach to prophecy. It can be very dangerous. It could put lives in danger.
Yeah, and I've just got to jump in. I've just got to jump in, sir, because we have a break coming up.
Yeah, and I have to go in. I work as a chaplain. I have to go in.
All right, if you stay there for 30 more seconds, though, just so I can say this. Of course, many Christians would say, yes, God is bringing back Israel in unbelief and in sin, and there will have mercy and demonstrate his glory. And that's why we could see all the negative, yet God bringing positive out of it. I just want to ask you one question, and you can answer Betsy, our call screener. First, thank you for calling. Much appreciated, and I honor and respect the fact that you called. I was just wondering if you ever read my book, The Real Kosher Jesus. Just curious if you've read it. If not, Howard, sorry. Howard's in, my bad. Sorry about that, Howard. I'd love to send you a free copy. I don't know if you could even receive it. But if so, just stay there 30 more seconds. Howard will come on. And if you'd like a free copy of my book, The Real Kosher Jesus, I'd just love to get your impression on it as a Hasidic rabbi. So stay there for another moment, and Howard will be right with you. Thank you, sir, for the call.